Hello, and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness for Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. What I got to go in mind is to get all these from Blog Talk saved to here. I hope everyone's having a great day and have a better tomorrow. And remember your blessings. I hope everybody's doing good. Please say hello. Hello, Sheila. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. So, without further ado, I'm going to have to change my settings now. Hey, Eric, good to see you too. Thanks for coming, y'all. I'd like to start it off with a Bible verse, usually a couple Bible verses, but okay. In Matthew 18, verse 6, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Always remember to take heed that you despise not one of these little ones. For I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Remember also in Proverbs it says, evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. So without further ado, I'm going to make sure to put up trigger warning up here. There's a lot of people that have been abused. Thank you everybody that are in here to listen. Let me change the settings now to where my voice will be cut out. Play the recording.
Empty promises, believing all your lies. Wanting me to sympathize with your life.
They want us to sympathize with their lives. They're full of crap. Welcome to another episode of Shattered Innocence. Abuse affects our lives in so many ways. What do we do when we are too scared to tell? When we have trusted someone and they did not help. Sometimes someone asks, what did you do to get punished in this way? Abuse is abuse. Abuse is not punishment. Abuse is torture, crippling, and debilitating. What advice would you give others to help them through the horrendous memories? Are you there for the person? Are you part of the knife in your friend or relative's back, since you may have turned a blind eye to it? Are you claiming to advocate against abuse, but condemn the people who tell and share their stories? Do you want to be a part of the solution or part of the problem? Let's stand united and discuss ways in which we may help others. What ways have helped you in your healing journey? Are you in a constant battle fighting the negative forces within? Stop. Let's encourage one another. Are you an officer in the judicial system, not doing your job to help the victim? That means you are not doing your duty. Your duty is to serve and protect. How do we open the public's eyes so they can acknowledge and feel the need to help protect the children and our citizens? The children are our future. You matter. Without further ado, we have with us Blackstone Lawyer, who continues to share his story. And first off, I'm going to go ahead and ask him how he got the Blackstone Lawyer name.
Well, it was actually a name I adopted from Black's Law Dictionary. The legal definition of one who practices Blackstone law or common law. And in the North Carolina general statutes, you have common law exercised with general statutes, as long as you know how to exercise that common law. And there's really only one way to gain sovereign immunity approval of the government is to be granted sovereign immunity, either by a legislative body or a governor of a state, like what had happened on the afternoon of January 29th, 1998, over there in Murphy, North Carolina, at the McDonald's. The codename Blackstone Lawyer is adopted by me as the special agent Charles Rogers, the appointed provisional governor of the state of North Carolina.
And I have found proof beyond what you are talking about, so it has been validated.
Yes, it has been validated. Its appointment they cannot dispute, though. One of their taxes, I think, this week's going to be, well, he's the governor of a state that does not exist. No, it's the other way around. The state of emergency still exists today as it was declared then. It doesn't matter how many other state of emergencies have been declared. They were really invalid but could be enforced. So there was really no error at law. These governors who operated under the guise of legitimacy declared or anything like that. Now they're executive orders. Now that's a horse of a different color. Like, for example, Roy Cooper, he decided he was going to move the Department of Motor Vehicles central office to his hometown of, Rocky Mount, North Carolina, 2 hours away from, the state capital. That's probably going to be undone because, one, I can understand creating jobs where you're from, but there's about to be better ways than, doing state jobs. But North Carolina has been a provisional state since Governor James Baxter Hunt Jr. declared it a provisional state. It only operates under the guise of a state of the union only because of my discretion. The only thing that we did not do, or I did not do, was deploy the National Guard, the tanks, institute the curfews, and because it's really a declaration of martial law. It's just not been enforced. It's just sitting there in limbo. So if or when I may need to, I could actually send in the National Guard. I could actually enforce martial law. I've had a whole lot of mixed reactions out of people over the gun issues because, one, anytime I believe there's a state of emergency, that's when the American people really needs their arms most of all. Yes. So I know not one of those what you would expect to be in charge of something like that because I'm not a gun grabber.
Right. And you said that you got information about John Bonet, that new information that you had found out?
Well, I had already known it. Okay. There were some other people out here that knew, some researchers and investigators, and they knew that John Bonet's parents had a house in North Georgia region close to the tri-state area of North Carolina and Tennessee, which was in fact located there on Chattooga in Hiawassee, Georgia. During the summer of 1996, for an example, an employee of Zell Miller, Eric Robert Rudolph, was her water skiing instructor there on Lake Chattooga. I don't know if we care to cover that in our conversations or not, but Eric
Yes.
taught.
You can go over it. You can go over it. Remind people about that.
Yeah, he taught water skiing lessons for people he knew through working for Zell Miller over there at the Brasstown Valley Golf Club. They built a new resort in 1997 and completed it in the spring of 1998, and he was actually texturing the walls of the sheetrock. You can go in motels like Wakita Inns, you can see the rough, smooth type texture on the, on the walls when they do on the sheetrock and they paint it. That's what Eric, one of his specialties was in that type of work, construction, was texturing walls. I believe he did work for Jimmy Carter, David Ralston, Johnny Isaacson. He was involved in a lot of things. Eric Rudolph is not what the media or anyone has really truly depicted as this Christian identity movement, unless they want to turn around and redefine it as this pedophile Christian identity movement, because I don't find anything really godly about pedophilia. I just don't see how it really mixes in with anything that anyone of moral principles would even consider engaging in or allowing anyone else to engage in. But that's just my opinion.
That's why, I do the Empty Promises song, because they want us to believe their lies, but we refuse to believe their lies.
Well, another family was using the Ramsey home on Lake Chattooga that year. The Ramseys was actually staying with Ray Duncan in his house with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeff Epstein during the summer of '96.
Oh, wow.
So in Oktoberfest of '97, Ramses and Ghislaine and Jeffy and Rudolph and all of them, they went hightailing it down to Helen, Georgia, for Oktoberfest. So during Oktoberfest, someone was able to get a picture of John Bonet in her little blue white dress, in her little German dress, because that's what Oktoberfest is. Helen is a German-style city and German traditions and based, and people go up there every year to drink the beer and celebrate Oktoberfest. So a lot of people have suspected that.
I saw that picture, and somebody had an article saying, is this just laying in the background? It looks like her in the background. And so you're validating that it was her, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember going up there. I used to go up there to Hiawassee and eat some of those restaurants there because they had real good Southern food. And a lot of people knew me from my occupation as a salesman. But in '98 and '99, they found out that I had stepped up to becoming the second appointed highest official in the state of North Carolina, and it was over terrorism. And it came out September about Eric Rudolph being involved in the West Memphis 3 homicides, John Bonet's homicide and Levi Frady's homicide. He almost got shot by once Pat found out the truth, it was not lying when she and I, and if it wasn't for some other people that was up there and wanted to kill him because he sat there and looked her in the eye and lied to her. Then he got up on the trail there between her house and the highway there in Nantahala Valley, and Mara overheard him validate that particular question. And
tell what question that was that he asked.
if I ever stuck the, and that's what almost got Eric Rudolph shot by his own mother. That and plead guilty. The weeping mother about to lose her. She'll never be able to hug or hold him again. It didn't sound like she did from what she had to call and say to him. Because Richard Jewell, she was in there going off on him like that. And it's because that Eric Rudolph is and always has been a serial child rape and a murdering domestic terrorist for the deep state.
Is this what leads to what their agenda was in 1990?
Well, their agenda in 1998, of course, was 17 minutes after they hit the New Women's Healthcare Clinic over there in Birmingham. People were Oklahoma City bombing that they were going to hit the FBI field office in Mobile. Well, they did try. They really did. And that was the morning of January 29th, 1998. What they was going to do across the creek from Young Harris, Georgia, who actually grew up with Zell Miller. They're like family on up until Zell's death, according to Frank or Francis Cook over there during our discussion on the 8th of April of 2019 in his bedroom. They were still Frank and his brother Robert and John Cooks on to the Millers. And they're the ones who had the possession of the hydrogen bomb.
Where you can remind them where the hydrogen bomb was hidden at one time.
It was located, believe it or not, in the well shed that it was in. Actually, it was a buddy of mine. Now, his son, I hope that doesn't reflect on the character of his daddy, Willard Davis.
Yeah,
but his
because
boy,
he didn't know nothing about it,
No, he was at work when his boy neighbors went out there and set it in his well shed, and I think it was Ted Cook went out there later at 7 o'clock and set it up for 36 hours of detonation. Because it would be 12 hours for the arrival close to Mobile for the truck bomb. And, of course, the getaway drivers. But it wasn't Eric Rudolph that was driving his pickup truck the morning that the New Women's Healthcare Clinic was attacked. That was actually his buddy, Joey Davis, who is really the anonymous caller to the Centennial Park attack. And, a lot of people wonder, well, if Eric Rudolph didn't, commit the attack on Centennial Park, why is he convicted? Well, that's because Eric was the one who constructed all of the explosive devices. And even when he had help, he was the one in charge of construction of the bombs, and including the one used out there in the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building.
I remember that on the Centennial bomb, and it could have been a lot worse than what it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have over 3,200 employees of the General Motors assembly plant there in Doraville, Georgia. And immediately got laid off at the end of their shift. I think it was on the 22nd of May of 1997 that the second truck bomb attempt on that assembly plant. Like the Home Depot corporate headquarters, June 13th, 1997. Home Depot tried to blow up its own corporate headquarters.
Wow. With people
203 gag
too,
orders.
right?
203 gag orders for those employees and employees in the store location, which was located across the road from it there on West Paces Ferry Road in Vinings. All those gag orders have expired now. These people ready to talk about it? No, not the kind of people they were working for, because the people they were working for tried to blow them up.
Right.
So American people are about to find out that Home Depot has been nothing really but a deep state cover for human and child sex trafficking and forerunner of domestic terrorism.
Oh, wow.
They're about to find out that its founders, every one of them, were involved in the Atlanta child murders with John Ramsey. These names and identities of these bigwigs we call the Billionaire Boys Club. Ted Turner's even under fire. Why?
Oh, wow.
Because he deserves it. So it's not about what I say, my views, or anything like that. All I can do is share my knowledge. So people of the state of North Carolina and people, of course, my native state of Georgia will fully understand why I got hung up the way I did and what I got hung up in and how it went down and how I managed to not get killed in the process and afterwards. But it all still revolves around the negotiations of that hydrogen bomb there at Cook Ridge.
But they were after you a long time before, with the other stuff, at 17, and they just kept on after you because you were fighting for what was right against these pedophiles.
Well, the evidence for the RICO just turned over over a week ago to Casey Libby, Roger Nance's attorney, in his frivolous libel suit against me. If Chris Carr doesn't act right now, wow, I get everything prepared to act in North Carolina, bring these people to justice. There can be some bloodshed when people find out they're refusing to allow me to proceed, because it immediately disqualifies Joe Biden as President of the United States and reestablishes Donald Trump until the elections, simply because Joe was disqualified legally of holding office after my appointment on January 29th, 1998.
And also because
And
because Hunter Biden was and his scandal that he's having with messing with kids.
yeah, see, Hunter, after I stopped the June 3rd, 1997 attack on the ball ground elementary school baseball game over there in Cherokee County, Georgia. My brother Fred, Roger Nance, John Ussolini, Mike Cook, rode over to Young Harris to a motel to meet with Eric Rudolph and Hunter Biden, who were hanging out in this motel room. They didn't want to stay at the resort. You know, they were still building a new resort. They still had the original resort open, but they didn't want to go over there and stay at the resort where, you know, Eric worked sitting over there smoking crack. And so they went over there and went in the motel room, and they found Eric and Hunter in the bathroom in their BVDs smoking crack. So that's where people are like, well, we're ready to hang them to the wall. Well, once they understand Hunter and Jim's position on this and the agreement that was initiated between us in June of '97, as long as Jim and Hunter hold up to their end of the agreement, I don't think they're going to have to worry about being sentenced to death or anything like that. And if they turn these people over like they're supposed to turn them over, it's really going to be quite honorable to see them do that if they do it. But it's like, all they have to do is hold back one name and the deal is off, is what I told them. I want every name. The only way to stop this stuff is to go at it hard at one time. Once the public and the media, once the public knows who these people are, now I can step forward without looking like someone who needs to be in a nut house and say, okay, well, this is what went down. And that's why we're at this point today.
Right.
Because they tried to start a race war revolution in the United States in the 1990s. Governor Hunt was supposed to deploy the National Guard into Western North Carolina after they successfully hit the FBI field office at New Women's Health Care Clinic in Birmingham that morning. But they only succeeded in attacking, the abortion provider, of course. Injured abortionist Emily Lyons for life and killed Officer Robert Sanderson, who was working there as security. And but that was not Eric Rudolph wearing Pam's brown wig. That was Joey Davis, the cross-dresser, wearing Pam's brown wig. And they're talking about someone wearing a bra up there in Washington before sticking out, before putting out the explosives. And that's always been the thing with, even with Kevin Langan, the leader of the area Republican Army. Always figured if he fronted as a cross-dresser, he might could get put in an all-women's federal facility. And so that's, that's the thing with some of these guys, white supremacists. They'll make other people think that they do it as a, kind of a front for if they get caught, but they are actually bisexual.
Yeah, then they're put right there in the women's prisons where they can rape these women too in prison.
Well, people are about to be shocked how many of them are actually ministers. How many of them actually work in banking. Yeah, work in banking. Everybody with a mortgage is going to love this if I can pull it off, because really, when you lay forth the evidence and you take the parties that's involved, well, there's no longer a national debt. It gets reversed because all this was set up by the people running this country, from behind the scenes. So that makes them guilty. That makes the deficit the American people's, and everybody with a mortgage and a car note and credit card debt and student loan. You're going to find out they're worth around $3-4 million, and they don't owe a thing. Because legally, by the rule of law, when you look at the fraud that's been committed, in addition, to, who was L. Miller's widow? Well, that is banker Shirley Carver. And who is banker Shirley Carver? Well, she's president of the Federal Reserve branch in Atlanta, Georgia. So what does that do there? That makes the Federal Reserve the guilty party.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Go out here and run up to the bank and borrow about $10,000-$20,000, take your family on vacation. When you get back, you better run up there to Raleigh and help support me and Donald Trump on getting these people brought down, so you won't have to turn around and pay the interest back on that loan, and you might be able to discharge it because it came from a racketeering, influence, corrupt organization.
Yeah, look how much interest, and some of it have risen. Like, I recently had a friend who was paying like $400 something a month for like 15 years, right? All of a sudden, they told him that he had to start paying $900 something, so he had to end up getting rid of his house because there was no way he could pay the $900 something a month.
Well,
he ended up losing his house recently because of that.
I don't know if you've ever listened to Mark Robinson's and his speeches, his sermons and stuff when he goes to churches and he preaches, because, he's one of those guys that, get my vote when you sit there, you listen to him preach, because he's lined it out. Now that we see what their objective has always been and why they tried to tear this country apart in the late 1990s the way they did, and then, of course, what happened with 9/11. But this is before 9/11 of the crimes that these people are guilty of. And really have to be brought to justice because the crimes were so horrific and against humanity that I find it hard to believe that the American people would want to be governed any further under such a system as we currently have, and go back to the system that it was designed to be, instead of what their objective has always been, their panel of judges to determine if someone's committed a crime and if they have, what their sentence is. Because that was always their objective, was to have that to where they could get away with pedophilia and child trafficking and everything else that they do. That was their objective for the 1990s, for the New World Order agenda.
I noticed.
So there's a lot of.
I noticed also that there's been a lot of criminals who claim, such as a brother of mine that had threatened somebody with a shotgun, and he said supposedly that they had dismissed his sex abuse charges, that he had done to somebody under the age of 12, and then charged him with a gun thing. That is not right if they did do that.
Well, I have a double background. I have a government official background, and I also have a criminal background. But the criminal background that was stemmed after what happened to me prior to my 18th birthday,
Right.
going into survivor mode, and all of that has to come off anyway, because a lot of it was accrued as an agreement to get that hydrogen bomb surrendered over there at Cook Ridge, because they did not want to give up the identities of their partners in Georgia, which I already knew who some of them were. But I did not have the identity of people like Craig Manier, Jeff Carey, and some of these other people, really low-level scum of the earth they call high-level. People that are really running the state of Georgia, and out of Atlanta. I mean, they call it a democracy, and all it is just a fancy term for hypocrisy. Do as we say, but don't do as we do. Don't go out here and rape, murder a child without inviting us because we hate competition. And I hate to be the one to break the news to everyone, but that's pretty much what we have, and the people who are in government, who are working there in hopes of trying to make a better justice system for the community, they're sitting there and their hands are folded. So these people have to be gotten out of office. They have to be gotten out of law enforcement, to where our good members of law enforcement could sit there and use due diligence when dealing with the public. And nobody's above the law. Until we can get to that point, all we're going to see is more escalation of problems with other countries, in addition to more violence and mayhem on the streets here in America, because that's exactly what they want. They want racial conflict. That's what this always has been about. That is why you go in and you do the research on these organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, and you come to find out, well, it was actually a Jewish guy who actually really started the Ku Klux Klan. So it's really not a Christian identity issue now. Now we're getting into Judaism, people that are in Judaism that is involved in this stuff just as much, if not more, than these people. I mean, Jeff Epstein is a prime example of that. Harvey Weinstein, he's a prime example of that. And now what everybody's finding out about Melody Ghislaine there, Ghislaine, I've called her too. A lot of these people involved in this are actually Jewish, like Ron Brill, Arthur Blank. So it's not a Caucasian issue. It's a cultural issue trying to provoke racism between other races to where they can come in for world dominance. Is what it boils down to. If they can get them whites and blacks killing each other off, well, they can turn around and put the whites against the Native American and get more whites killed off, more Native Americans killed off. And once you get enough numbers dwindle down on all the sides, the Asians, and got everybody out there killing each other over racial issues, but them, because if you say anything about them, well, you're anti-Semite. But that's apparently what it's looking like. Anybody says anything about it, they get attacked with this anti-Semitic rhetoric and bigot, and totally attacked when they bring it to people's attention. But the evidence is what it is. There was Jewish people involved with the Aryan Republican Army.
Yes, I've heard that. many times. Yeah, I do agree with you that too many of these higher ups, they do not get the adequate, they don't even get convicted of what they do. You know, the criminal, the murders and all that. It's like they got a protection against them. I mean, for them, you know. And it's like we the people, all of us that try to be citizens, try to be the best people we can be, and we got to suffer the consequences. And if it were us that did something, sometimes it ain't us that does it, but we ended up having to go, some of us have to go to jail based on lies because it's set up for these people. So there are a lot of people that are wrongly in jail that should not be in jail, such as, you know that, I'm sure.
Well, in some cases, when they came after me, some of the people they hired to snatch me actually turned against them and assisted me. I mean, because I had good reason. If I had been some ordinary Joe that after I was 18 years of age that decided to go out here and do this, it would be, one thing. I know I wouldn't be alive. But when a lot of people found out that this stuff goes back as far as in my childhood and what I had to deal with out of these people, there for a while I was in a kind of a comfort zone, I should say, there from 1987, I should say, to 1999. I was kind of in a comfort zone. Felt safe, and all of that just fell apart within a 2-3 week period. In 1991, it all just suddenly changed. I was out, working with my mom's brother, Morris, Veach out there. We were working out of Marietta, selling Kirby vacuum cleaners, but we were all the time running out around Madison, Athens, and Gainesville, and all these outlying towns selling these things. It was really a drag selling them, but I learned to sell them. But I had helped the engineer of Electrolux, who used to come in this Waffle House there in Unit 479 when I worked there, design the nap lifters for the Electrolux shampooers there in 88 and 89. So when they finally got available and ready for the market, I pretty much did a company change. It just went over there and just started working for Electrolux because they had something to get the sand and heavy debris up out of the carpet then with a good, effective vacuum. And it's another reason why I did the company change like I did. I didn't make a penny off the design of the nap lifter, but I had a field day down in the panhandle of Florida and places like that, Lower Alabama, selling them. That was the easiest item anybody could sell, people that had carpet and children, especially down on the beaches.
Yeah.
But
all that sand and stuff that they got to get up out of the carpets.
Yeah, I came in a Waffle House one day. I had been there like 7 or 8 months. It had been like a little over a year since I had worked there. And I came in one day, and waitress and cook, I worked with them, and that's one of the reasons why I popped in to see how they were doing. I hadn't seen them in a while. And they was telling me about this young woman that was coming there looking for me by the name of Beth Jones. I was okay, well, don't know any Beth Jones, why there being Beth Jones looking for me. And they described her, this young, real pretty and attractive young lady, real nice, had a boyfriend, because she had brought her boyfriend in there with her a couple of times. So they knew she had a boyfriend. But she had been coming in there for like 3.5 months consistently. They had tried like 7 months before that, but then really consistently, she was coming in there for like 3.5 months, asking if anyone had seen. Made certain they had her pager number.
Yeah,
to make certain.
Just let people know that they need to listen to this, because this actually, I believe, is Beth Ramsey, right?
That is correct. So I'm sitting there drinking coffee, and they're telling me about her coming in there, and I'm like, well, it doesn't sound like a talent scout, So I didn't, I was just baffled why, there'd be a young woman named Beth Jones I didn't know coming in there looking for me, but maybe it had something to do with one of my previous jobs or something. So but they said, well, she was in here about 30 minutes. You just missed her. And I was like, really? Yeah, we got her pager number. And I said, well, give me her number and I'll page her. No, we'll go ahead and page her for you. We'll let her know that you're up here. So they went ahead and paged her. And, of course, she came over there. She was driving her friend Paula's little blue Geo. She was borrowing from her. And she came in there, introduced herself as Beth Jones, and then when we got back out to her automobile, that's when we started having a discussion, which she really did scare me there in the beginning, because she was covering the stuff from my childhood at Bentley Farm.
Yeah, but you didn't think that was you, right?
Well, I was wondering how this woman who I'd never met in my entire life knew this stuff. See, it was a little scary in the beginning, because I was wondering, she was sent to locate me, to get me killed, or what? Because there was a $450,000 cash settlement with a house and 6 acres of that farm I was supposed to receive by August 1st of 1996. And I had already had problems with the Bentleys through my entire life, and I always had problems with those people. And she was telling me, was pertaining to the Bentleys. And she asked me, she goes, have you heard of a John Ramsey? And I'm like, well, I know a few Ramseys, but there's only one John Ramsey I can think of, and he was the John Ramsey that I met at Layton Graphics back before my 18th birthday, who was trying to kill me with my brother and all the bunch from Layton Graphics and Bentley Farm. And she goes, well, that's my last name is actually Ramsey, and I am John's daughter. That is my dad. And I was like, well, I don't know what in the world you want to come looking for me for. I mean, what are you, CIA? I mean, did your dad send you to look for me and find me? No. It's nothing like that. She goes, I'm not here trying to do any favors for my daddy whatsoever, if that's what you're thinking. No, it's the opposite. My boyfriend is on his way to town, and he's going to be here tomorrow. And I want to introduce you to him, because he will fill you in on everything, even things that I don't feel comfortable talking about regarding my relationship with my daddy when I was a child. But my daddy did some things to me I really don't like talking about to other men. So I'm going to let my boyfriend, Matt, explain everything to you. So that's how I wound up.
What was Matt's last name? I forgot.
Ma'am?
What was Matt's last name?
Darrington.
Darrington. Okay, I was trying to make sure it was Darrington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought I was going to wind up meeting some geeky, computer geeky looking guy, you know, preppy and all that. But no, actually, Matt was what you call a real man, you know. He was devoted to his girlfriend only, and he didn't have any problem cold cocking somebody inside the head, wrestling them down and messing them up. He didn't have a problem at all fighting. He was what I call a real deal of a boyfriend. They were an ideal couple, and anyway, that's how I wound up meeting Beth Ramsey. And so, of course, I went back the next day, and that's when I wound up meeting Matt, and that's when he filled me in on pretty much everything from her granddad, Jay Ramsey, John, Frank Sheldon, the North Fox Island pedophile ring. He filled me in on that. The Atlanta murders. They knew that I had went down the river that night in 1982 when I was 16 years old, pleading for the safe return of my brother, and found out that my cousin Robert and Ed Bentley Jr. were there and involved in those two sacrifices of those two black boys. So they knew a lot about me, just her going and listening to her dad talk whenever she come into town and would stay and visit after John Benet was born. She heard a lot about me. Of course, she worked at a part-time as a cocktail waitress, she called it, a waitress at a bar. And, of course, she worked for Delta Airlines as a cocktail waitress for the airlines. And so the second time I met her, she had flown in from her job and was still in her outfit from working at Delta Airlines and looked so fixed up and pretty and all that, I didn't even recognize her as the same lady I'd met with, the day before.
Right.
Because she was fixed up and just flown in from her job with Delta. And he picked her up at the airport and drove her up there to Marietta. But that's when I found out what they had in mind for this country in the 90s, and he laid it out what John had done to her when she was a little girl. He had raped her. They initially had tried to tie me 3 months earlier because there was a 9-year-old girl, Caucasian girl, that was held captive over there on Bentley Farm in that barn for like 2 weeks. And by the time they found out and tried to get someone to check it out, she was already gone out of that barn.
Well,
it was really a suicide mission is what they were wanted, but she goes, she had told me the day before when I met her that the Bentleys had offered my brother the $450,000 cash settlement I was supposed to have coming in '96. Offered him that money, to execute me. And like I said, we had been at, quite some time until then, until this. I had sold him a Kirby vacuum cleaner like 8 months earlier after he got married. And
So it's a good thing that Beth found you so that she could warn you, huh?
yeah, that was the good thing about it. And I still almost wound up getting killed. But I didn't get killed. I'm still alive, and I can still talk about it. Was their hearts? They're dead. They died the way that they feared that they were going to die. They were being chased the night that they collided with that bread truck. Matt, he never would drive he would drive in the rain by himself, of course. Okay. But when him and her were together, he never would drive in the rain. No matter if it was just a brief rain, they would pull off at least a restaurant and go in and sit and drink coffee. If it was for like going to rain 2 or more hours, they were in a motel. They didn't care.
Could you tell the listeners right quick before we go on with this? Could you tell them what John Ramsey said he threatened to do to Beth?
Well, after he threatened to have us all killed, okay, me included, it was because we tried to get to and Patsy, she just brown-nosed, proud in Atlanta that Beth and her mother, Lucy, just didn't care about. Lucy did not like these people in Atlanta. That was another reason to split her and John up. John was down here having affairs with, a lot of the elite in Atlanta, including Nancy Grace, when she was a prosecutor with the district attorney's office.
Wow.
What Lucy figured was rich scum of the earth is why Lucy divorced John Ramsey. She found out what he had done to Beth. That was it. She went to Jay, asked Jay for help. Jay, he came down to Marietta, assessed the situation, loaned her the money, got her a place in Virginia where she could move the children to temporarily till she could find a permanent location, and filed for divorce to get away from his son.
Jay is the grandpa, right? The father-in-law, right?
Yeah, James Dudley Ramsey. That's what he went by, was Jay Ramsey. That was
I'm
Beth's
surprised he
grandpa.
helped her out. And I'm still surprised that he helped her out, knowing that he was part of the pedophilia ring too,
Well, apparently he had a softer heart for his grandchildren than he did other people's children. Beth, Matt had to convince her that none of this stuff was normal. Once he became her boyfriend, he got down to the gist of why she kept having ended relationships and why these other guys were starting to attack her integrity like she was a slut.
Right.
And they went to school together. And he didn't like that. He wasn't about to allow that to happen. They were friends, and then he found out what her issue was, and that's what really bonded the two together because he cared. The other guys didn't care. She was just, in their term, the guys, she's a piece of tail, type thing.
Yeah.
And he saw her a lot more than that, and the woman was a lot more than that.
The lady.
She was confused. Any young lady in high school would be confused. All she needed was someone like him that could come along and pull her together and get her balanced. And that's what he did.
I'm glad that she met him.
Yeah, great guy. I mean, and after they killed we'll get back to what John said to her after he arrived, after they killed the two teenagers. But he arrived right when Paula arrived. She was parked down the road at the East Lake Shopping Center where John Andrew was parked at.
Yeah, John Andrew is he's older than John than Bert, right?
Yeah, he's the youngest child of Lucy, because you have Melanie that's between him and Beth. And of course, between and John Bonet. The hair lip, pulls his upper lip in real tight when he talks, and bottom lip is loose and all of that, but he's not hair lip, but he almost got hair lip one night. And in 2005, 2006, him and his buddies were following me around in Marietta when I didn't know who they were. I just noticed I was being followed. And this wasn't long after I got the death penalty passed for child rape in Georgia. The Coalition for Children had been threatened with a lawsuit from the Ramseys because we wanted to use John Bonet as one of our mascots in Georgia to get the death penalty passed for child rape. And we got threatened with a suit because I was the one who formed the coalition. And
if that would have been my kid, I would have been proud for somebody using my kid's picture. She was murdered and I didn't do it, especially too,
Oh, John Ramsey had his way. I'd have been dead in 1993 if he had his way. Because they tried to kill me a number of times down there in Lower Alabama, Panhandle of Florida, when I, was married living down there in the 90s. And that's what really forced me up into Murphy, North Carolina, where I was forced into the situation of having to go out there and shut down all those terrorist attacks that I shut down. Because I looked at it like this: if they're going to kill me anyway, they're going to have to kill me while I'm stopping their terrorist attacks. Fred thought he was tricking. Fred thought he was tricking me into going to North Carolina. Fred did not know I intended to go to North Carolina anyway. His goal was to get me up there and set me up and frame me for the Centennial Park attack and the September 11th, 1996 fake attack of Rhonda Cook, the first wife of Oklahoma City Centennial Park bomber Mike Cook's wife. She wound up stabbed in the legs, where I supposedly come riding up to her house on a motorcycle, not my work truck that I drove every day. Motorcycle.
I'm laughing about that because, the ironic type stuff because, we knew where you were,
Yeah. So, supposedly stabbed her in the legs, and she successfully fought me off. And everybody knows me, hears that story, they're like, my gosh, They knew if I was to attack a woman, it one, I wouldn't need an eye. And if it did, it'd be swoosh, swoosh, end of story. But I suppose she stabbed her in the legs. She successfully fought me off and went running out, jumped back on the motorcycle. I think her husband's Uncle John or Uncle Robert overheard the commotion, but he didn't see anything. I took off and went down toward, I went down Cook Ridge into Flint Hill and drove down toward the dead end of Flint Hill. But nobody could ever pinpoint where my pickup truck was at. Nobody could say they saw my pickup truck down at the dead end of that street. But out of around 11:48 a.m., Drug Task Force Commander Mark Pigpen radioed in the tag number. Okay, but still, that's not where my pickup truck was parked at. Because my pickup truck was parked at 11:48 a.m. in College Park, Georgia. So they thought I was in Murphy.
Nowhere near where that was, you know?
Nowhere near where that was. Like Eric Rudolph was up there hanging dog, drinking beer and smoking marijuana with his brother Daniel and some people up there I know the night of the Centennial Park attack. Okay, but you know how these people are when it comes down to going to jail and going to prison. Well, it's better him than me. So that's why Eric wound up taking the fall before the Centennial Park attack, because of the cowardness of the cooks over there and the surrender of that hydrogen bomb. Oh, they got their 25-year run. You know, well, Eric, he got the short end of the stick. He got blamed for the Centennial Park attack, too.
But then he made the bomb, though.
Yeah, he made all the explosives. And they had over 96 explosives planted at baseball fields by dugouts of every elementary school from Ball Ground. I think they even had them in Canton, but Ball Ground was the first one they tried at an elementary school. That was June 3rd. And I showed up. It was kind of funny because I didn't know who to say anything to. I'm hearing a bunch of strange people I'd never, recall meeting in my life. I hear Jeff Cook and Joey Davis yelling at me. I wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't say anything back. I just stood there looking around to see who else I could see. Well, I see Eric a distance away walking up and getting ready to kneel down. Now, some of these other spectators was watching the ball game were wanting to know what these guys' problem with me being there was. I said, because they're about to set off a bomb. A bomb? I point over at Eric, who's kneeled down on the ground. I said, he's over there hooking a detonator up to the wires right now. Because they were already in the ground. All he had to do was reach down and pull up a couple of wires, locate them, and attach his detonator, and walk off and set it off by remote control. So, of course, that was the end of that game. And everybody in the crowd going crazy and all that, and I managed to get out there without getting shot. And that's why they had their little meeting about Fred's little brother showing up and stopping the attack of the baseball game that night. And that's where the crack smoking rumor of Eric Rudolph and Hunter Biden was birthed out.
Yeah. So is it time where you could go ahead and say what Beth Ramsey was told?
Yeah, John looks at her and he goes, he could understand my position. That's why he thought he might let me live longer. But as far as Beth, Paula, and Matt, he let them know right off the bat they didn't have long to live. He looked at her and he goes, "So, do you think me birthing you, being your father, that I'm just going to allow my own offspring to betray me like this? I want to know why. What was your motivation? It was so important to you that you would betray your own daddy." Well, she told him it was because of John Bonet. And he asked, "Well, why about John Bonet?" He goes, "Because what you did to me when I was a little girl." And he goes, "So you thought I was going to do that with John Bonet?" "Well, yeah, if you did that to me, why wouldn't you do that with John Bonet?" "Well, what makes you think I would do that?" "Well, because you penetrated me." He looks over at Matt. He goes, "Matt, you come from good family, good Christian parents, church-going parents, really good people. But they're going to be my son. You understand." He looked over at Paula and he goes, "Paula, now, young lady, same with your folks. You come from really, really good family, good church-going Christian folks. Same thing. Charles here, I can understand him. I can understand now why he got drugged over here. But he's going to wind up dead over this too. Maybe in a year or two, but it'll be a year or two longer than what y'all get to live." He looked at Beth. He goes, "When I get home, first thing I'm going to do is rape your little sister. And I'm just going to have my fun with her. When she gets older, I'm going to dye her hair blonde. I'm going to spend a fortune putting her in these beauty patches, so she can get up there, dance and sing, and show everybody what talent she has. And I'm going to pass her around like a hooker in a whorehouse." Now, on the 20th anniversary of Jill Robinson, that little girl I shot in the face with a shotgun up there near Birmingham, Michigan, I'm going to kill John Bonet to get you back. That way I'll have control over your soul for eternity. And I will inflict punishment on you like you have never thought you would be inflicted once I leave the world. I'm going to get you back once I kill you.
And you're a witness, and you were right there when they said it, right?
Oh, yes, I was right there. That was my cousin Robert and Ed Bentley Jr. who shot the two black teenagers, killed them.
And Beth had trusted her brother John, and
yeah,
told
she
him about
went
the
against.
protest, and that's what happened.
Yeah, she went against what Matt and I told her. She had thought she could go and trust John Andrew with this information, that he would agree with her that something needed to be done. And Matt and I told her, no, how close is your brother with your dad? Well, he's fairly close. Well, don't do it. We were like, no, don't do it. Well, she did anyway. And John Andrew snitched us out to her daddy.
And y'all did get them out and everything, and they were running, and then they got shot, right?
Yeah, Judge McLaughlin was sitting there, and his when I came running up with the two teenagers, I saw his car parked right there. That was that 71 Buick Centurion of his. And I saw that instead of cutting out with the boys, I came up a row of cars above them to shoot out across with them. So I hear them drop on the pavement, bumblebee sound come by my head. And I get to the other side, and I stop, and I look, and they're down. I'm about to run back. Matt goes, "Don't run back. Get down." Because they were down at the buildings, little mini warehouses below the Waffle House there in the wooded area where you couldn't see them. And they had silencers, of course, because that's what Ed Jr. manufactures for the United States government, or silencers for their weaponry. So that's why we didn't hear the gunshots. And I only heard the bumblebee sound come by my head. It was my cousin Robert letting me know, "Well, I could have killed you then."
So is this, what's the main reason why you think he's getting away with it? Because of his money and high power, and also McLaughlin being a judge? He was a part of that too, and then there being in the pedophile ring, so there's high names with Epstein and Maxwell and all that stuff as well?
Well, I've had a lot of interference since 2019. I wanted to get this ball rolling in 2019. But the conditions, nobody was supposed to murder any children, do anything else to any more children. And if I found out about it, well, it wasn't going to be courts that they were going to have to worry about. It was going to be this group of people that used to hide Eric Rudolph out up there in western North Carolina they're going to have to worry about. Not me. Because if they had detonated that hydrogen bomb when the federal forces came in, Governor Hunt was going to have to deploy the National Guard into that region. Well, they and my brother was going to be out there shooting federal agents and National Guards, and others were going to be dressed up like federal agents and National Guard and was going to go out and shoot innocent families and fuel it up. This is what was going to happen up there in the Nantahala region. And, of course, most of their attacks, a lot of them were attempted on the anniversaries of the Atlanta child murders. February the 3rd, 1997 is no exception for that U.S. courthouse over there in Gainesville, Georgia. But it just wasn't government buildings and stuff that they were going to attack. It was mostly civilian targets. Some of the families up in that region in 1999 had taken their families to Six Flags, July the 4th, 1997. And they found out that they did not make it past Blue Ridge. There was 9 backpacks in the back of Francis Cook's 1996 Dodge custom van. It's blue and white, just like his 1996 Ford Econoline custom van. They were both blue and white. Okay? They would transport the explosives in one van, but when they left the scene, they would get another van that had no traces of explosives in it when they left the attack. One person would risk driving the van that the explosives was taken in. Okay, so if they got caught, only one person would go down for the attack. But City of Blue Ridge, Georgia State Patrol were the ones who conducted the traffic stop there at the intersection of Highway 5 and 515 in Blue Ridge. That was a traffic stop and conducted a little over two and a half hours, one of the most intensive traffic stops in state history that the public is unaware of. The patrons in the Waffle House, McDonald's, and the Hardee's, which the Burger King bought out Hardee's after they relocated from that intersection. But all the patrons had to be, escorted through the kitchens into the rear parking lots and laid down and take cover because the police knew they had a truck full of explosives and 8 passengers stopped. They were going to follow me to Cumberland Mall. They couldn't make up if they were going to send me in there alone with a backpack and blow me up in there, or if they were just going to blow me up at Six Flags and when they started shooting off the fireworks display. I was going to find out once we arrived at Cumberland Mall. But some of those families were at Six Flags, and they were furious. Even if they had been alerted, or even if they hadn't been injured or killed and witnessed the carnage, they intended to inflict the deaths up to 3,000 people, maybe more if they could, was their goal for the July 4th, 1997 attack on Six Flags.
Oh, boy.
Nine targets over there March 11th, 1997 on Buford Highway. The first attempted truck bombing of the General Motors assembly plant there in Doraville. A truck bomb attempt on the Martyr Rail right there at Doraville. Attempted truck bombing of the IRS building there on Buford Highway. The other targets, AmeriGas Propane Distribution Facility, Mansfield Oil, Citgo Oil, including a lot of the gas stations along the highway there, Fuel Farm, the tanks at Peachtree DeKalb Airport. All of that was targeted. All was supposed to be set off at the same time that the truck bomb went off at 10:25 a.m. at the IRS building. Problem was, when they arrived to the IRS building, there was 2 trucks blocking the entrance into the parking lot, so they couldn't get in near the building. So they just turned around and drove to the Rent-A-Center location where I was working at. Went in there and held the 3 employees and me hostage for 2.5 hours. They had the State Patrol, they had Interstate 285 blocked off from Interstate 85 to the northbound open on Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. The City of Doraville and DeKalb County Police, they had Buford Highway blocked off 1 mile north of 285 and 2 miles south of 285. They had Peachtree Industrial Boulevard blocked off for 2 miles south of Interstate 285. So you had people that lived in apartments that had to go outside of their apartments to behind their apartment buildings. People in the dealerships having to go out into the backs of their buildings, and businesses all along Buford Highway, they're having to take cover. That you still go over there and people still talk about how the terrorists went in there and failed to pretty much blow the city of Doraville off the map. It was on the news, the truck bomb that was sitting outside of the Rent-A-Center. Helicopters flying, all the others, they departed. The only one that remained was the one that they tried to hit the IRS building with. So we wound up giving away a Black Ashley bedroom group once one of them employees got out the front door and escaped. It set off their plans to execute one of the hostages then, because that's what they were about to do, and I had to pull the stunt that I did to upset them and Jeff Cook to where he would take his eye off of the manager and assistant manager to where the assistant manager could get out the front door. So we were able to give away Black Ashley bedroom group to convince them that, well, if you go out here and you load up this bedroom group, it'll look like you're here for legitimate reasons. You know, you came here to buy some furniture. Got the store manager and the account manager to agree that they'd chip in with me on a bedroom group, so we didn't, Eric Rudolph, he wound up picking out the one I suggested. It was the hottest seller, and that was the black and gold trimmed Ashley bedroom group. So, of course, the FBI almost blew it when they arrived, posing as a couple. They almost got us blown up, but I managed to bluff the others, convince them that they were just a couple, you know, there to pay their bill. But they knew, and later found out they were FBI. But the FBI wanted confirmation that, you know, it was a truck bomb. They wanted someone to say truck bomb, and so I finally told them to leave that couple alone, to get in that trucks and get that damn truck bomb out of there before the police got there. Well, they knew the police was all over the place. That's just my way of bluffing them and getting them motivated to get that truck bomb out of there. So all of those gag orders have expired. They failed to hit the Lakewood General Motors assembly plant. And when they arrived, they hit the Greenbrier Mall afterwards. They found out the police was sitting there in the parking lot at Greenbrier Mall waiting on them. And so they were not able to hit either of those two targets. When they hit the other side lounge, Sam Evans had already alerted the owners that they were a target. So when Matt McRae set out the explosives there on the jack, everybody took cover before they were detonated, so why nobody got injured or killed. When they arrived 15 minutes to underground Atlanta with that truck bomb, city of Atlanta was already present and waiting on them.
Wow.
We wound up shutting down 26 out of around 31 terrorist attacks. And it took members of the Cook family, Mary Hegwood at the time. If it wasn't for Mary, it would have been impossible to get that hydrogen bomb surrendered. But it was a Cook family standoff, so to speak, because she had other members come over that night to let them know that they were going to fail in their attack on the FBI field office, that the FBI already been alerted. And of course, I had to come back down and, commit a bunch of crimes I normally wouldn't commit, and build up a record, to build a case, a solid racketeering case on Judge Mike McLaughlin. But I told him I would come back with at least 24 other partners in law enforcement to send off Wenham when I come back. And I pretty much got that amount gathered up here in the state of Georgia from the 2013 through the 2015 aggravated stalking conviction. That was part of the investigation. And it's given me what I need to pretty much go after McLaughlin. There's no way out for him, and And I know once we start getting these people in custody, there's, some of them going to start singing. Now, the cooks, I was told them, okay. Ma'am?
Go ahead.
The cooks, I told them, no, I wouldn't go out here and snitch out my partner. I'd just sit there, man up, and tell them what I did.
Right.
And, well, now that Nance has done what he did, wound up in my mother's house the way he did, like I knew he was going to do, and now he has turned around and sued me for libel over it. They're supposed to go, since I did everything I told them I would do, they're supposed to go and peacefully turn themselves in and admit to their personal roles in the crimes that they committed. Now, whether they want to do that or not, well, you got to remember, there's that bunch up there that were hiding Eric out. They were ready to go round him up and round them up, 99, and some of them up there and say that they're still ready to go round them up. There's people up there screaming old school roundup. They're ready to old school roundup. So I got to get really moving on this again. If there's any more hindrances or delays up there in Raleigh, it's not going to be on me.
Right.
Again,
I got
required by law to move forward. So I'm moving forward and getting these people criminally prosecuted.
Yeah, and I seen recently how that they're trying to make it out that you're crazy, that you lost it, and all this other kind of stuff.
Well, they did. They that whole event. The victims in the aggravated stalking thing were actually murder suspects, members of the Cobb County Police Department. All of this was discussed also with Special Agent Juan Garcia, the Minneapolis field office, and the agents of the Atlanta field office over at Kent's Corner Grill around June 11th, 2011. These people are supposed to go and turn themselves in. We knew they were going to take me, lock me up, throw me in the nut house, call me crazy. And we already knew that. But they said they was not going to take down Cobb County. I said, well, I'm supposed to come up there with enough names, Cobb County, and the state of Georgia, that they're going to turn themselves in. If I pull this through and survive and get the diagnosis overturned, which I did. So I got everything in order that I'm supposed to have in order. The psychiatrist that she will be summoned. I know quite a few other mental health experts I can summons, and they'll pretty much tell you if I suffer from anything that's a mild form of post-traumatic stress disorder, that really don't award any type of medication, but being able to talk about it and let it off of my shoulders.
Exactly.
So to me, is that a mental illness? Well, at least I got justification. I've had people tell me, well, you're crazy. Well, at least I'm justified. I had the first attempt on my life at 9 years of age, supposedly another one at 14, then another attempt on my life before my 18th birthday, and beating out on my... What's your excuse? Did your mama drop you on the head, or were you just born naturally like that? And, some people, they get offended when you ask them that, but, hey, until you're walking somebody else's shoes, if you weren't there and you don't know any better, you're better off just to say, well, could be, time will tell, and if so, we'll find out. We'll find out who's crazy. We'll find out who the nutcase is. We'll find out who the lunatics are.
And now people are doubting the stories and stuff, but look how much more crime has really escalated. It's like it just burst. And,
well, it did.
I want to touch on this other thing right quick that that I had heard you talk about before, and and I know that you said that there were other people there the night John Bonet Ramsey, if that's what you're talking about. I'm not sure whether you want to or not. And the proof behind it, they were the people there or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What happened in 2005 during the rallies? I had switched John Mussolini to my side when I didn't kill him back in last part of May of 2000 for stalking my mother to execute her. He was renting a place from some friends of mine there by Sprayberry High School in Marietta. His parents living up there in Murphy. I was actually neighbors there, didn't even know it during this time. But in 2005, when he found out that I was a U.S. envoy in Peru for the Bush administration to the Toledo administration and brokered Operation Predator down there to fight the child pornography industry there, simply just by attending the birthday party of Peruvian Congresswoman Doris Sanchez. It impressed a lot of people in Marietta that I had actually gone down, especially the ones in Murphy, that I had actually gone down and fulfilled that promise, that condition, that I would go to Peru and negotiate that deal. So it impressed a lot of people, especially John. So he found out one day I was going to go to the courthouse to edit or audit the sex offender registry, and that I wanted to start this coalition. And he goes, well, I want to be, I'll help you. I want to be part of this. You know, if you're doing this, I want to be part of it. So he helped me form the coalition. We did the audit on the sex offender registry list. We got together with other members that want to be part of it. So we had a nice sizable little coalition. Believe it or not, both bills that we proposed that year were passed into law. One was the adoption of Megan's Law into Georgia Code, and of course the death penalty for child rape under 1664, which is the child molestation statute. And you get convicted of child molestation in the state of Georgia and victims less than 10 years of age, you're not supposed to be released from prison until you serve at least 25 years to the door. Those sentences cannot be probated, suspended, nor paroled. They're to the door. So we accomplished that in 2005. But I had John drive me over there close to the old Marietta High School, which it was still a high school then. They closed it down since. Because I wanted to go over and visit with my friend Beth Ramsey's grave. And because really her and John Monet's was really my main motivation of forming that coalition. Something told me if I did that, I was going to wind up with the evidence that I was wanting to start fighting the child trafficking here in the United States. Something just told me if I did this, that would happen. And it was beautiful how it did happen. John drove me over there after we did our audit at the courthouse. He sat out in his van while I went in the cemetery. Well, you walk in one way, it kind of goes around like a circle, and then you come back around and you exit out there. That's the St. James Episcopal Cemetery, the best that I could remember. It was the only time I had ever been in that cemetery. And someone had gone in there and had already vandalized this grave on the other side than where I had went in. He sat out there and parked, and he watched me while I was in that cemetery. And he saw me when I was exiting. I was approached by Ed Bentley Jr., because he's, chief of security for Cobb County. If there's ever declared emergency for Cobb County. He's the officer in charge of FEMA. You know, he's top dog at Cobb County. So he shows up with 3 Marietta police officers, all dressed in tactical gear. I'm walking out, and they're standing there, and I've not seen Eddie in years. And he's sitting there with this grin on his face, bad attitude, accusing me of vandalizing this grave. John sat over there and watched. He knew I didn't. And he knows Eddie. So he's just sitting there watching Eddie's conduct with these officers, telling me I was banned from going back in that cemetery for 20 years. So I get back over and get in the van with him. He goes, man, what is it with Eddie Bentley that he's got it out for you? So that's when I told him about what happened with Jim Stubbs, how he's still buried in Morganton, Georgia, the Bentleys, and John Ramsey, and he about come unglued. He could not believe it. He had thought that I had dragged myself into this mess when I was in my 20s. That I just thought that I was just doing my civic duty, just at one point in my time that I was going to go up there and shut down their operation because I wanted to brown nose the United States government and get me a position in law enforcement. And so I just decided to drag myself into this. This is what he and a lot of other people have been told. And it all come out. It came out about Mike McLaughlin chasing me down in Evergreen, Alabama, crashing his Buick into the brick mailbox down there while trying to chase me to a bread truck. And I finally identified one of the drivers of those bread trucks as friends of Terry Hobbs, David Jacoby, who has also been implicated in the West Memphis 3 homicides. So I got him identified. I got Bill Ramsey, the guy that went by Bill Ramsey. I got him identified 2 weeks ago as Franklin Delano Floyd. That's who John Ramsey had with him, or Mike McLaughlin dropped off with Ramsey the night that I met Ramsey at Layton Graphics, who was going by Bill Ramsey as Frank Floyd. And you can pull him up, you see what other aliases that he used. You can actually Google Roger Dow Nance, and you can see how many aliases he uses. And these people, they're not hard locate. Like I said, a lot of people are going to be upset when they find out how many ministers and politicians and government officials and bankers and entertainers and who's involved. And it's sad because our nation has made it to this point, but the people are now, how's the information up their hands that even an 8-year-old child can look at the evidence and judge to themselves, well, these people, they need to be put to death.
Yeah, but as many people as they've been murdering, and I still like the fact when that one girl escaping from John Ramsey, you know, when his first day, you know.
Well, as long as they push Chris, as long as they push Chris Carr in Georgia to start moving on this too, it can stop a lot of violence on law enforcement in the state of Georgia. If he wants to sit back and, as we say, fiddle fart around, he think they're going to find out that it's going to endanger the lives if they refuse to act on it. And I'm the one in there trying to move it. And if nobody moves, that's on them, not me. Because I'm pushing to get the stuff done now Now that I found out I am, in fact, registered as the appointed provisional governor of North Carolina, it's my job and my duty to the people of the state of North Carolina to move forward and have these people criminally prosecuted. That's the whole purpose of the appointment in my position. So I figure out the best way to approach this is go up there and say, well, where's my paycheck? Now, everybody knows this is not about money. Because if it was about money, I took the $4.5 million hush money I was offered after they murdered Beth and Matt Darrington, Beth Ramsey. Now, they got Paula in January of 97 because I had drove over there near Centennial Park and CNN in my van, and I had my magnetic signs on my van, and she saw me, and they were following me, so they found her that day. But Paula, she did good. For 6 years, she had her little apartment there in Atlanta. She didn't have any utilities, cable, or anything in her name. And she would go work her job, park her car, and had her little combination walkway to her place to where she could lose somebody if they followed. She had it down to a science. But she didn't even get to make it to the big truck that they had destined for her to make it to when she had her crashed, because during the chase, a MARTA bus pulled out in front of her. So she lost her life hitting the MARTA bus. Well, the driver of the truck that she was supposed to be chased to, believe it or not, was actually a black guy this time. So they decided they were going to do a chase with me one afternoon. Well, he had an account at Easy Rental. I forgot what it was he rented, but Sam Evans was his account manager. So him and Sam got to talking how he told him he was supposed to do this truck thing with this guy supposed to crash into his truck. During the chase, come to find out it was me. So Sam, I get down there one day. He goes, "No, you need to go talk to this guy. They're planning to do something with you today." So he drives me over there and drops me off, and then walked over there to where he was at, and we got to talking. And I told him what I drove and everything, and people were the ones that were, in fact, responsible for the Atlanta child murders. And he was on the same page with me. So that evening, when they got to chasing me, I was coming up Peachtree Street. I'm trying to remember what street it was when you're going up north before you get to where the Hard Rock Cafe and all that stuff is. It was just before that cluster of buildings. And all that traffic was blocked off to where I couldn't go straight, that I only had one choice. Either Ely, which was too dangerous with the oncoming traffic, so I had no choice but to make that right. Well, right when I got in front of that truck, he pulls out behind me. He's supposed to pull out in front of me where I would hit him. But he pulls out as I'm passing by, so he pulls out between them and me, and they almost crash into him. And I got away. So that's why they wasn't able to crash me in Atlanta. And don't think they tried it any more times after that. I did have a chase up there between Dahlonega and Suches one night. But you're talking a stretch of road that I was practicing driving on when I was 16 years of age, because I lived up there in Suches, Georgia at that time. So I used to drive up and down Highway 180, one of the most dangerous roads in Georgia, challenging that road. I guess I was waiting to see what I could do to run off the road and get my kill, and I never did. But I always push my cars to the limit around those curves to see how fast I could push them without sliding off the side of the mountain. So I got really good at driving in the mountains. I really got good driving in that old slushy mud down there in lower Alabama. It's another reason why they couldn't get me when I was down there. But word about this is getting out there around Evergreen right now, and some folks down there, they remember my brother and his buddy coming down there trying to snatch me up twice at the game range down there. They were told by Evergreen police to leave and not come back, you know. And that's when they sent Mike McLaughlin, judge. Since they couldn't deal with it, well, he was going to handle the situation, and that's when I watched that Buick and chased that Chevelle back in 1980. Chased me down Brooklyn Road to Brooklyn Paul Road. And that road is so tricky through there when you're right up on somebody's bumper or even within 2 car lengths of them. You can't tell what's in front of them. And it curves right there past the Rawls's driveway. And Willardine, that was the first one they had built there that he hit, totaled out his Buick. They went back and she decided to have another one built back a little bit further than it was. Wasn't happy with it. She decided to move it back again. So she had it moved back even further, and I declare somebody didn't come through there drunk one night and still hit that brick mailbox.
Oh, man.
But that was the whole reason of them building the brick mailbox. And T.R. Pate, you know, her brother-in-law across the road there, they had a iron mailbox, looked like it was built out of wood. Looked like a little barn. You thought was built out of wood. So someone would think about hitting it with a ball bat. Their fingers would jar once that ball bat hit that iron mailbox. Owners of Grady Rawls and Sons Construction, you know. Of all brick mailboxes in the entire world, that's the brick mailbox that Judge Mike McLaughlin of Cobb Magistrate Court totaled out his Buick on, trying to chase me to a old UPS truck. I'll call them bread truck or utility truck. And it just so happened old Terry Hobbs' buddy was old boy over there driving that truck that day. They had 2 of them. He was going to try to chase me too. And he had me. The 455 Buick was way superior to that little old 305 V8 I had in that 83, you know, Pontiac Grand Prix SJ that I had. But handling, I had him. So I just drove my car front center toward that brick mailbox while his automobile was on my bumper. So he couldn't really see what was up in front of me. So right at the very last moment, I whipped it to the left, and that big Buick could not avoid that mailbox. His head hit that vent window. I'm not supposed to remember him telling me about this because they raided my house in 2013 and injected me with this drug. I think it's Versed is what they call it. It's used for, you know, combat veterans for severe post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not supposed to remember all the times I was almost killed, something tragic happened. I'm not supposed to remember any of that because of the medication.
To up, huh?
Yeah, they wanted to cover their tracks. They had, you know, they lie so much they can't even keep up with the lies they tell. When my daddy was dying in 2001, in July of 2001, he was in the ICU. I think the last case I talked about, Judge McLaughlin threatening to have Danny Kiss and another guy killed, lock us up, and have us killed because we want to get a protective order on my brother Fred and Roger Nance. And, well, that's because my dad was in the ICU in Piedmont. They went with me over there. I really wanted one against Roger because I really didn't want to restrict my brother from coming over there and seeing our dad while I was there. But I most definitely wanted one against Roger. Well, McLaughlin wasn't going to do that because, dude, they're his henchmen, you know. So that's when he sat there and threatened me and my two buddies kill us if we ever tried to do anything else in court in Cotton County against my brother and Roger Nance. So that's why Danny's suing them.
Kill you? McLaughlin tried to kill you? McLaughlin told him to kill you if you tried to do it?
Yeah, we tried to get another protective order against Nance. He'd have us locked up and killed in the jail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he gets justice soon.
Well, yes, he's being sued by KISS in the U.S. District Court as we speak. And this is another thing that shot down Nance's frivolous libel claim. Is one, I don't post anything on social media that I cannot back up with at least one or more witnesses besides myself.
Plus, you even got a lot of proof of that back then, you know, about people confessing and telling you things, you know.
Well, it's funny what people will tell you before they think they're going to kill you. I mean, they will tell you every sin they've committed on their son because they don't think you're going to be around to talk about it.
Right.
They tried to get rid of me on the 7th of July of 2001. Fred, my sister had arrived and was going to replace him sitting with our dad in the ICU, and he come up and he goes, well, I know we got free coffee here, but I think I'm just going to drive down here to this little cafe and go in there and just have a cup of coffee in there. You want to ride with? I said, well, I can walk down and meet you down there. And I'll just drive over there. Just ride with me. We'll just ride over there real quick. Something told me he was up to something. But to go ahead and go along with him anyway. So we get in his car. My mom had given him her 96 Buick LeSabre. So we get in his car and we pull out the hospital. Well, we passed by the cafeteria. I said, well, back there's the cafeteria. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to ride over here and pick up a buddy of mine. Well, the last person I wanted him to pick up was Roger Nance, and that's exactly who it was. So, of course, when we pulled into this old Shell gas station, was no longer there. They done tore it down and built some other buildings. And but he pulled down there to pick him up. I got in the back seat. There's no way in the world I was going to sit in the front seat of a car with Roger Nance sitting behind me, which, of course, he wanted to ride up front, which was great, and really contributed to my successful escape. Well, we pulled back up, and lo and behold, we're picking up Craig Manier. Now, this is the second time in my life I've ever seen Big Bird, I call him. The first time is when they tried to truck bomb the Home Depot for headquarters. He was actually in the store location that morning. And that's when I first saw Craig Manier. Marilyn Parkman described him to me as being one of the guys who helped, Milton Frady abduct Levi. Jim Vickers.
I'll let you know there's a minute 35 seconds left.
Yeah, Jim Vickers identified him. described him. Albert Samples described him. But that's when I got his account of him deciding when John Bonet was going to be murdered, because he was a distant cousin of Jill Robinson, is what he said.
Oh, wow.
So he joined the cult, according to him, in the West Memphis 3 homicides.
Okay,
That he joined the cult.
This is about to come to a close. It's got 60 seconds, so really about 30 seconds. So do you want to leave it on to leaving words, and we'll start with that part. Remember what you just said and write that down as a starting point for the next time, okay?
Yeah, all you have to do is just mention Jill Robinson and Craig Manier, and I know exactly where to pick up from.
Okay. How do you spell
And their
his last
relation.
name?
Menear.
Menear? What was
Yes,
your first
ma'am.
name again?
Craig.
Greg. Okay, got that. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you next week, okay?
All righty. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Can you hear me okay? Please put a 1 if you can hear me okay. Please hit a 1 if you can hear me okay. Let's see. Try this with the settings again. Audio. Please put a 1 if you can hear me okay. See if they can hear me. Can you hear me okay? Testing. Testing. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Show again. This Craig Manier that he was just talking about. He is, okay, let me go here. I got it under the list. AtlantaMagazine.com. Atlanta 500 Business, the top 500, the most. And here he is, Craig Manier, Chairman and CEO of the Home Depot. Craig Manier is Chairman and CEO of the Home Depot, the world's largest home improvement retailer with more than 2,200 stores and 400,000 associates. Under his leadership, the company continues to focus on providing a seamless, interconnected shopping experience that blends interconnected shopping of the physical and digital worlds, leveraging the convenience of its stores, digital experiences, innovative product offering, and reliable delivery options for professional and DIY customers. Manier was named CEO and President in November 2014 and Chairman in February 2015. In his more than 20 years with the company, he has held roles spanning merchandising, supply chain, store operations, sourcing, marketing, and online. Prior to joining the Home Depot, he worked in a variety of roles in mass, home center, and specialty retailing. He went to school at Michigan State University's inspired people, the Home Depot's founders, Bernie, Marcus, Arthur, Blank, and Ken Langone. Heritage Team Depot, Junior Achievement, Salvation Army. But here is Craig Manier, the very one that he was just talking about. There we go. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And there's just 2 more recordings we got left, and I'll try to be presenting them maybe sometime tomorrow. And I say God bless. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. Just remember that you're blessed regardless. And it's best that we do get this information out there. But I'm trying to get it out there before the 29th so I could delete my account over there. They're not letting me without having that all gone. But I want to thank every one of y'all because I'm just not going to delete it out and not get the word out there. It's got a lot of important information that was recorded there. And I refuse to just go and delete it. I needed to share the information with anybody and everyone. We need to listen. We need to pay attention. This keeps happening for too long. I want to say God bless to each and every one of y'all. Thank you so much. Spend some time with family now, friends.